Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Thriving with Rachael and Dr. Lou. Last week we were kind of wrapping up on this whole concept of the 5-second rule. I think you were talking about that being a great concept, but also really effective. Mm-hmm. I assume you use this?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I live my life with it for sure. I'm trying to, of course I should have had the person's name, but it's a book. Mel Robbins wrote a book called 5-Second Rule, but I first heard her in her TED Talk. The name probably will offend some people, is how to stop screwing yourself over. It's all about the mind.
Oh, wow.
And how your mind can play such games on you. And she came up with this concept of the 5-second rule that I'm pretty sure she researched it. And it's the idea that the brain takes about 5 seconds to get comfortable where it is, or to notice and get familiar with where it is. For instance, if you are sitting on the couch and you're really cold and there's a blanket at the other end of the couch and you are like, well, I should get that blanket. But if you're waiting past 5 seconds, and all of us have probably done this, you're kind of like, but I don't really want to lose this warm spot.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get it after the commercial, and you'd rather freeze than get up and just go do the thing, because it's the idea that your body and your mind noticed that you're comfortable. You're cold, so not comfort in that you feel good, but comfort in that it's familiar. It's where you already are. And so the brain, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, likes to stay the same. It doesn't like change. And so her theory is that if you can identify something that you want and you can make change towards that or action towards that within 5 seconds, it's a lot easier for the brain and your body to then transition into it.
I wonder how that works with people who are avoiding. Because, I talk to a lot of people who struggle with anxieties, and their go-to is avoidance, right? It's about, well, I don't want to do that because it's going to create anxiety.
That's what happens in the 5 seconds, though.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what she talks about. In those 5 seconds, what are you investing in? Are you investing in the change, which is, I'm going to get that blanket, or I'm investing how comfortable I am. Same thing getting up in the morning. How many of us hit snooze? How many of us also know that research shows hitting snooze actually kills your morning? It's terrible for you. Why? Because this 5-second rule, it's not like it's put in the research that way, but that's essentially what this is. During those 5 seconds, at least for me, I'm investing in how comfortable my bed is.
Yeah.
And how comfortable my pillow is.
It makes
and
it
how
so much
warm
harder
I am,
to get up.
and how cold it is outside of the bed. And how I don't feel like working out. And how I don't feel, And so that's essentially what makes change harder.
Do you think that that's that conscious, though? Like, I don't know that I'm consciously laying in bed thinking about how cold it is once I get out.
It's awareness.
Yeah.
How many of us are aware of that?
Not too much.
But I guarantee if you ask yourself, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guarantee half of you are resonating with this right now. Or maybe I'm totally alone in this. I don't know. But that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the question I think I asked last week is, what are you investing your energy in? And the idea that you could kind of get ahead of it if you know certain things and you are aware about certain things, and you can do it quicker. Like I was talking about last week, I know myself when I started going down that rabbit hole of, you missed a day. I noticed it. Again, I'm pretty aware, and that's something I've had to practice over many years, but I know myself. I know if I didn't just 5-second roll it the other way and move, I would have been dwelling in that, and I would have convinced myself, take off the rest of the week. Start next week.
That would be ideal to get to that place where you can institute that 5-second rule consistently. But like you said, it takes awareness, and it takes a plan that, okay, this is something that I want. So
right.
what do I want to invest my time in? And then to actually go and do it. Right. Now, how does that compare to impulsiveness, though? Because, there's some of us who might say, well, I make decisions in 5 seconds, like left and right.
That's a good point.
And is that being impulsive by using that 5-second rule? Like, I would imagine, like, obviously certain things you have to take more than 5 seconds to think about, really look at pros and cons, get some feedback, make decisions. But I think most of what you're referring to is in the day-to-day life that we have, whether we're going to go make that phone call, whether
right.
we're going to shoot back that email, whether we're going to, get up and take that walk.
And just to clarify, it's 5 seconds, within 5 seconds to take a step or to change where you currently are. So it doesn't mean if I want to go clean my kitchen, I have to clean it in 5 seconds. I have to just get off the couch in 5 seconds. So technically speaking, if it's, even something like writing an email, sometimes we write angry emails. You probably don't want to write those and hit enter right away. But it's the idea of making that decision and being, so if I maybe write an angry email, let's say, making the impulsive 5-second rule decision to walk away from the computer before sending it is the idea. Before I impulsively the other way, maybe do things that are less helpful. So I guess the rule is more so referring to not necessarily impulsivity, but more so making change quicker before your mind can talk you out of other things. So it's about
making the change, not deciding on what I should do.
Correct. Yeah, it's not which decision. I'm not making
so that's
the
a much
decision.
Better,
yeah, that's important. Good clarification. Yeah, it's not about making the decision within 5 seconds. It's about changing, because the idea behind it, the theory behind it, is that it only takes 5 seconds for your brain to get comfortable with where it is.
So wherever you change to, 5 seconds, your brain kind of adapts.
It's like, oh, I really like this chair, though. I really want to stay right here.
Okay.
Just as opposed to making any type of change. Because remember, we don't like change. The brain doesn't want to change, even if it's uncomfortable, which is crazy, right? Like, even if it's uncomfortable, it would rather stay there in discomfort.
Because of familiarity.
It's familiar, exactly. Yep.
And that's kind of what dictates people then. We stay in relationships, we stay in chairs, we stay in jobs because we're familiar with it. We know it, better the devil you know than the one you don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
So I guess it has to be something that you decide, where am I going to put my energy into, and then push forward to do that.
And let me give another example too. Let's say that we struggle with social anxiety, or we struggle with, judgment of others, from others, or even just a perception of judgment. This could be used in that also. So if you notice maybe you're in a room and there's a bunch of other people and nobody talked to you, and you start noticing you're going down this rabbit hole of, oh, maybe they don't like me, they don't want to talk to me, maybe I have something weird on my face, whatever it might be. Again, trying to notice that and recognizing, oh, there's that thought again. Let me, 5-second rule, redirect it. And also knowing you can start that 5 seconds whenever. Doesn't mean that, oh, well, I missed the 5 seconds.
Nope, there it goes again.
Sorry. It could be later and you're realizing you're at this party 30 minutes later. You've been in your head for 30 minutes not talking to anyone. 5-second rule it to, go get something to eat or go talk to someone. So it's the idea, again, of making a change for yourself in this moment, whatever that might be. If you notice you're getting into a negative headspace, you don't need to have an activity to go to. You just need to go somewhere, anywhere.
That could be really beneficial when you're in not a good situation. So, for example, if I'm in recovery and I'm at a party and I notice that people are drinking, and normally I haven't had a problem with that, I've been able to stay sober, but now I'm starting to feel tempted. I want to use that 5-second rule and say, I'm going to go hang out with somebody else. Or I'm going to leave now and say I'll see you tomorrow. Go catch a meeting or something.
If you're honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 5-second rule is meant to be beneficial and to evaluate things that are helpful. Obviously, we can all be very impulsive with, going to get that extra chip or going back to order an extra scoop or whatever it might be. So looking at, to your point, is this something that's more just impulsivity, or is this helpful redirection?
Yeah.
There's a difference.
I think you're right.
So, and you also brought up earlier the difference maybe between avoidance and isolation. Avoidance and isolating both sound negative, though. I don't think that's what we mean. Maybe like isolation versus self-care, me time, things like that. Avoidance versus redirection.
Yeah.
Is it more so?
Yeah. Because I've been talking to a lot of people this week about anxiety, and avoidance was, a primary topic. And I guess the difference is, do I want to be... Don't want to give too much away, but... So is it better to, if I want to be alone, I guess it goes back to honesty. Are you being honest with yourself?
What's the function?
Do I want to be alone because I'm comfortable with that? I wanted to, spend some time reading this book that I've been wanting to get to. Or am I avoiding doing something that somebody wanted me to do, and I'm having the excuse of, there's this book I wanted to read kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
So honesty is really important.
What's the function of this behavior? That's super important.
Yeah.
Right? Because if the function is avoidance, that's something we need to look at versus, I really want to like you said, read this book. What was the thing that initiated it, though? You know, was it angst about going to this thing?
Yeah.
And then this gave me instant relief. Because you have to kind of remember, there's the difference between avoidance or self-care and isolation. There's also a difference between, you know, doing something that makes me feel good and something that just gives me relief, right? Getting relief by getting out of something is not the same as feeling good, right? It doesn't fuel me.
Yeah.
It just takes away some discomfort.
Yeah. Which we always are trying to do.
In theory, that's what we think we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get rid of discomfort, when in reality, it's not about getting rid of it. It's just about learning how to navigate it differently. So I think that's a good question.
Well, that brings up a good question, too, about the idea of discomfort. You know, so much of our, in some ways, our culture dictates the idea that discomfort is bad. You shouldn't
get
be
rid
discomfort.
of it.
Yeah, like you should get rid of any type of if you're in pain, if you're upset, if you're sad, you shouldn't feel that.
Right.
I don't know, there's a function to those things. You know, if somebody is sad, there might be a reason they're sad, and they
need to look at that.
It's okay. Cry then. Because if you're sad, then that's, you know, what you do when you're sad.
Same thing if I'm feeling frustrated, or if I'm feeling, you know, angry, or whatever it might be. Anxious, depressed, same kind of thing. They all have a function to them. Are we investigating the function, or are we just trying to get rid of it?
So part of our self-talk can really be tuning into what's the function of my behavior right now? What is it that I'm doing, and how is it serving me? Is it getting me to where I want to go, to what I want to be doing? Is it helping me to thrive? Or is it avoidance? Is it something that's not helping, and maybe I use that 5-second rule to make a change? Maybe I also talk to somebody else about pros and cons of what I'm doing, and what other options do I have.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to be working on.
All right.
Cool. We'll see you next week, guys.